Welcome to Cut Daisies and Unicorns, and this is Season 5, Episode 7.
7?
We're at 7 already.
7. You know, 1 is the loneliest number.
Right.
But 7
has friends.
7. 7 has friends.
7 has friends.
Yeah, my favorite number's 5.
Yeah.
5 plus 2. 7.
5. How did you get to be... how do you pick your favorite number? I don't know.
Well, I mean, in a narcissistic mood.
Yeah.
I was born on the 5th of January.
Oh, okay.
And so, and I wanted my football number in high school to be 5, but that's a running back's number.
Yeah.
They didn't let me be a running back. So then I 55 was taken. And so I was 56.
Yeah.
It's a great number for an offensive guard.
Right. So you had a 5 in it still.
Yeah, a 5 and its weak little brother 6.
It's weak little brother. Not quite perfection.
Apparently it's the older brother, but 5 is superior. The superior brother.
It's superior.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I like playing sports. You tend to try to stick with the same number all the time, and like everybody tends to shy away from 13 because they're like either superstitious, like there's something wrong with 13. I mean, like Friday the 13th. I mean, is that the place where it comes from, the origin?
Friday the 13th.
I mean, then that's coming up in the month of May. There's a Friday 13th, so yeah. Wow. But I don't know what some reason people didn't like 13. I'm like, I'll take 13. 13's fine with me. I mean, yeah. I don't usually have any superstitious things about it, so why not pick 13?
Yeah.
So I used to do 13 all the time.
All the time.
Yeah. But in hotels, no floor 13.
No floor 13. No floor 13.
Yeah. So you're like, oh, we're going to just skip it. Like, but there actually is, if you count it, that would, floor 14 would be 13.
In the Western system of numbers, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You know, what's really interesting that I've never thought about before, but I have a small straight. Technically not really. Because a small straight is really 4 cards in a row.
Uh-huh.
A long straight is 5.
Right.
But my birth date is 5, and I was born in 1967, so I'm 567.
That's not bad.
Bad. Now what's really bad is we just put out on the interwebs my birth date.
Uh-oh. Don't give him any more information.
I'm not telling you. I'm
Childhood pets, don't mention any of them. Mother's maiden name? Nope. Not getting that either.
We're committed to moving into vaguer topics right now. Yeah, when you're talking about 13, I was going to bring up your password to your computer, and I'm like, yeah, this conversation is getting too intimate. People, whoever would want to assume our identities.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
you get none.
No soup for you. Thompson, that was meant for you.
Yeah.
So he's a
soup Nazi.
A big fan of Seinfeld.
Yeah, it's a pretty good show. I don't know if I liked it. I mean, and I watched it. I don't know if it wouldn't be in my... I don't even think I've gone back to ever rewatch it.
I have all the seasons.
Do you?
At the studio. What I've found is like there's a part of me that wants to enjoy comedy.
Yeah.
I really do. I long for it.
Mm-hmm.
But weird shit makes me laugh.
Right.
And so like what is like a normal sitcom isn't really funny to me. And so, like, but then I can be giggling at other stuff. And so I just put my, how I was ending the episode last week with the little antennas up in the air. I put my antennas up. I'm like, what am I in the mood for? I am amazed at how many times I can watch certain movies. But it's almost like it's a comfort thing. And I like, if I pick out certain movies, it moves me into this place of production where it feels like, if the glove don't fit, you must acquit. It feels like a well-worn glove.
Right.
And so like, yeah. So now I just start asking the question, what soundtrack do I really want to get into? Like, I mean, is it, soul music, or is it, Johnny Cash? So it's got that country feel. I will tell you, last night when we were texting, I said I really enjoyed the Adam Project. Mm-hmm. I would consider that a family movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Disney-esque almost.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And so for all of my griping on Netflix and how they've been missing the boat, Adam Project, Chef's Kiss, right there. Really, really good. But in that, you know what I was thinking? It's got a great soundtrack.
It does.
I mean, like
because it goes from different generations too.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Got a great soundtrack on that. And even to the point where I was thinking, I might get that as a DVD. Sometimes when stuff comes out like that, DVDs aren't available. It's only available online. Yeah.
And I don't even know. I mean, I'm assuming it became a DVD, no?
I don't know.
Does Netflix do Netflix? I don't know. That's a good question.
In Prime, if there's a movie you like, there's options to buy.
Right.
And again, the Sapphires. I mean, that, I watched that so many times that it finally came up and said, you can rent this or you can buy it.
Right. Because I remember some of the early Netflix original shows. I know some of them have made it to DVDs, like a box set.
Yeah.
Orange is the New Black was one of the early Netflix originals. And I've seen that on DVD. I mean, I haven't watched it on DVD. Sure. I don't even have a DVD player anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I probably should just get one. I mean,
the technology's cheap. You can get a Blu-ray DVD player for under $20 or $30.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
that's really cheap.
Yeah. I will say, again, I'm a fan of the Goodwill shopping for DVDs. It's a lot cheaper to buy them there.
Yeah.
The other thing I will say in regards to Netflix, you know how there's a generation of children that don't know what a rotary phone is?
Right.
Didn't Netflix start out as a subscription?
It did. Yeah.
And they
didn't have streaming. Yeah.
And they would send you DVDs, and then you would have to send them back?
Yeah. Yeah, we used to do 2 DVD, so you used to send out, and it was unlimited, so as soon as they got them back, they'd send you out 2 more, whatever's in your queue.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to do that. We had that for a while, and then they came with this whole streaming thing, and they're like, here, try this, and we're like, nah. It's fine. I'll just keep doing the DVDs. Yeah. And then they're like, well, we're gonna up the price, so you either just take streaming, or you can add both of them, but it's gonna be, it'll be pricey. I don't even remember what it was.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I'm like, all right, let's see what this streaming thing is.
So then there was Netflix that was going on with the back and forth, and then Redbox showed up.
Redbox.
And so instead of, going to the video store,
right,
which, I mean, really, Redbox is still around. Don't use it, but...
Yeah, I haven't used it in a long... I mean, again, I think the one DVD player we had kind of quit on us, and I was like, yeah. I mean, there's plenty of stuff to watch on streaming now. I mean, we've got a bunch of different streaming services on the TV, so why?
Oh, yeah.
So what's the point? What is the point?
Well, and just to let everybody know, we are taping on Thursday.
Yeah.
And you'll get to see the trailer Friday happen, and then Sunday will be the glorious day that you can choose to or not to watch episode 7. That being said, I just want to let you know, Phil and I got a lot of words out before we started shooting this.
We did.
So you don't have to, wonder what rabbit trail we're going to walk down.
It's true.
But then the real question is, what trailer are we even going to pick to walk?
Right.
Yeah.
Because we've got multiple paths that are possible.
Well, and in a multiverse situation, I'm really, really wondering what path the other Phil and Steve are taking today.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Because the multiverse would say that most likely we're going to take every path. It's just depending on what this one current, the one that you're watching, which path are we going to take?
Back to media.
Yeah.
I watched the show about the pilot on HBO.
The show about the pilot.
Yeah, it's about
the flight attendant.
No, not that one. About the pilot from back in the 80s that was running drugs for Pablo Escobar, and during the Reagan administration and the Don't Do Drugs and that whole thing.
Yeah.
It's a 3-part, and it's really, really fascinating.
Huh.
Yeah. Guy faked his own death.
Wow.
And then, began running drugs, had 7 different identities, and was really hopped up on cocaine.
Yeah. Did you ever pick up Snowfall? The FX series that I talked about, it's based on that, where they were taking the drugs, funneling them into, communities of color, and then using that money that they were getting by funneling the money into those communities to be able to fund the Iran-Contra war.
This is the same thing.
So and that's the reason why I was trying to link them, because it's a little bit more fiction. I mean, they had actual, people, and I don't think they're the same names, but you can kind of, it's the same. And that one seems a little bit more documentary. Like this is the guy.
This is definitely a documentary. And
so was he CIA, or did they?
Well, so apparently one of the guys that he was working for, that was his boss, and to the best of his knowledge, like, this boss guy, like, he's like, I made that dude like $30 million, and but the CIA came in and knew who he was, back to his original, and so, like, they're like, yeah, now you're working for us. But he ended up, like, being taken and put into prison, but he was doing the work for the CIA. Yeah. And so I've got, like, just probably half of the last episode to watch to finish it all up and tie it in a neat little bow. But if you like, just putting everything in context of, and we've gone down the road and talked too of how people of color were targeted, and how that went into privatized prison systems and making the money and all the corporate greed and all that stuff.
Yep.
So I've been watching a lot of
documented
espionage, spy stuff, CIA, all of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I was, thinking back on, you mentioned, like, sitcoms.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's, trying to find a place for it, it's almost like there was a almost like an era, and I don't know if we're in that era anymore, but, the ones that I always go back to, like, things that I'm just rewatching and watching, it was like Office, Parks and Rec, and then we're back on watching Community. Did you ever watch Community?
No.
So Donald Glover's in it.
Okay.
And so it's, like, to me, I think, it doesn't always get enough credit. I mean, it actually is a very clever show. There's a moment and it lags. So the creator of Community, Dan Harmon, also created Rick and Morty.
Oh, wow.
So
again, now there's an animation that is a cult classic.
It is.
Like, if you're into Rick and Morty, you really enjoy Rick and Morty.
Right.
Yeah. But even though it's available, it's not something that I drift to, but still, I'm again, like Queen's Gambit. Mm-hmm. I was scrolling, looking at stuff to download for the studio and to be able to watch. And when I went by it, I'm like, it's not been long enough yet, but I'm going to watch it again.
How many times have you watched that?
I think 4.
Yeah,
maybe 5.
Yeah.
But there's that one is just so well written and shot that there's an artistic beauty to what's going on, and then also the troubledness of this actress, or the person,
right, the character on there,
the character. Just that whole mental fine line tragedy, like all of it. It just,
and then bringing in addiction too. So
that's exactly
with mental illness.
Yeah, and all of that, and then coming along and seeing how the community of chess players rally together and
I enjoyed the series. I just haven't gone back to rewatch it. So.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's interesting that one comes up as a kind of circle back around and rewatch. So, yeah.
Now, Amy was telling me, have you heard this? That there's going to be a new Breaking Bad?
I was hearing stuff about it, but I didn't know there was anything confirmed.
I don't. She mentioned it. I was watching Better Call Saul, and
the new season, not just
the new season, and I was watching it, and she was kind of listening and asking questions, and she remembered Breaking Bad, but hadn't really been through the whole thing, and I'm like, well, I got that box set. I just watched through that. I mean, in the last 3 to 6 months, I won't go back through that one.
Walter and Jesse are supposed to show up, I think, on this last season.
Well, it would make sense. So,
right.
And something has to happen to Kimmy.
Right.
But yeah, it's good. Good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it's a good storyline. I mean, they know how to, I think, keep the attention.
Well, and that's the thing is, I was just shocked when they're like, hey, this is the final season of Better Call Saul. Well, okay, cool. What are you guys going to do?
Right.
Like, it could be, because as storytellers and just the whole thing of that, I mean, they got to be working on something.
Right. Which I don't know. Did she say anything more about that? I'm trying to figure out are they going prequel or are they going postquel?
I have no idea. And you and I have talked about the movie El Camino.
Yeah.
Which is basically picking up and filling in the gaps of some of the things that happen with the end. So I have no clue. Actually, I'm going to do this. Here's a close-up on Steve-O's face, and I don't know. I just don't know. Hadn't heard anything about it, and this could be whispers, but she really does go through that flipboard and find information out. So,
yeah,
and basically all I'm doing is giving Phil time to do some research and fact check, and wouldn't be the first time we took a really weird direction.
Right. A deep dive. Yeah. So Vince Gilligan's got a new show, but it's very different from Breaking Bad. Yeah, I'm trying to, because the top parts are coming out saying, they're going to reprise, their roles on this last season, which we already had, that news had already broken. So,
Hey, can we make a list of what I don't want to talk about?
Sure.
All right. So number 1 on what I don't want to talk about. I was over the Will Smith slap the day after it happened. I really don't care. Yeah. I couldn't care less. That's how less I care. And so I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds good.
Number 2.
Number 1. There we go.
On Steve-O's list. So number 2 is I really don't want to go down a torrential slope or jump off the cliff on what's happening with the war in Ukraine. Big bad Russia. The United States, us sitting here and saying that Russia's so horrible. Now, mind you, Russia is horrible, but I don't want to talk about it, okay? And with all that, because we're just not innocent,
right?
And so, you know, and I don't want to talk about COVID. Number 3.
Yeah, I think we had closed the door on that a little while back. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And what I am wondering about is, like, we all understand that there was COVID before COVID. It was -19. Right?
I think so.
I mean, are you with me there?
Yeah.
Historically, can we wrap our arms around that?
Yeah, I mean, there's
a COVID virus before COVID-19.
Oh, yeah.
COVID-19 was the aggressive version. Now we've got all these other, like, after names of, like, COVID variants and stuff like that. Folks, COVID was its own variant of COVID. So when people are testing positive for COVID and they've got flu-like symptoms or like a cough or a little bit, I'm like, of course you're testing positive. Because there was COVID before there was COVID.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it. All right. Where am I at? Number 5?
Yeah.
I think for right now, that's all I don't want to talk about. How about you? Do you have a list?
It's a good question. I mean, usually I try to keep the things that I don't want to talk about out of my head, but yeah. So I don't even
look into the camera and tell people how you erase stuff from your head so that you don't have to worry about it or think about it, or it doesn't drag you down.
So it reminds me, and this is going to be a little bit of a funny story. It reminds me of a SpongeBob episode. So, in SpongeBob, I mean, he's a quirky character. But there was a certain episode where SpongeBob has things that he's supposed to learn or do, but he's like, I don't have the capacity. So there was like this imagining what was going on in the head of SpongeBob, because he had one thing. They were supposed to turn this the restaurant into some like a fine dining establishment, and he couldn't turn the Krusty Krab into a fine so in his head he had to dump everything that was things of doesn't I don't need this, I just need to focus on turning this into a fine dining establishment. So you see in the in his reimagined head, is that they're going through all the files and they're just saying, dump it, dump it, dump it. Like there's a whole bunch of little SpongeBobs running around just dumping information. And the only thing that he's keeping, the only file in his head that he's keeping is fine dining. And so then he gets to this part where they put together this fine dining establishment, and SpongeBob is pulling it off because that's the only thing he knows.
Yeah.
Everything else has been dumped.
Wow.
And then they get to the part where he says, the person that they're serving, which I think is Squidward's cousin or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, what is the name of this wonderful person here? And SpongeBob is sitting there. He can't remember his name because it's been dumped. And he's like, and then you can see this like thing going on in his head, and they're like, what is his name? What is his name? They're running around trying to figure out what the is.
Wow.
This is how I would equate it. Like there's lots of things right now that are just running around in my head, and things are like trying to be, and I'm like, I don't know if I have the capacity to remember the things that I don't want to talk about, because I'm like, that file has probably been, flushed already, and I'm still trying to pull it up. Like, nope, I don't know what that is. So if it comes up, I'll be like, yeah. Or I don't even know.
That sounds about right.
So many things.
Yeah.
As we were talking about pre-record.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to keep, I got dates that float around in my head. Like, well, which job is that for?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I know I got this date there and this date here, but I'm trying to make sure to keep it all like filed so that I, like not run into one thing and saying, wait, what am I here for again?
Oh, wow.
So that's the reason why I'm like, So, I mean, the things that you list, yeah, I'm fine with
not talking about it.
Let's just reject it and move on.
All right. Well, early in probably season 1, season 2, like we had a good rotation of, just different hot topics and things like that. And I think our move in season 5 has been more along the lines of people are so inundated with all of this information and all of this stuff that's going on. We just want to bring a little mindlessness into, our topic studies. And, so when people are like, really, what are you guys talking about today? I'm like, well, actually, we have purposefully filled up the last 27 minutes of your life with very clearly a short lesson in numerology and a little bit of induction, again, into multiverse opportunities, and then current culture influenced by media. See, I can boil that down.
You can.
So three major areas. Oh, and the fourth. So now we're cutting our average time spent on each down into little 8-minute segments. The fourth is you got Steve's number 5 list of things he doesn't want to talk about. Right. I mean, because what's an episode with cut daisies and unicorns without a little Steve rant?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay.
It is okay. I got to get it out somehow, somewhere, sometime. So how about this, Phil? With your busyness of schedule, and just to clarify, the multiple, like when you say multiple jobs, you got your main gig, being pastor at Tabor Lutheran Church,
right?
And then you got a side gig going with Lutheran Church Extension Fund,
right?
LCEF, for those who are of any other denominational flavor and that doesn't know what the letters stand for.
Right.
But also by being part of Tabor Lutheran Church, which is Missouri Synod, then you're involved in the state polity in that you're a circuit counselor?
Yeah, they call it a circuit visitor. I don't even know. They're just like to create names.
Yeah. And then like are circuits a subdivision of a synod?
Yeah, so they're even of the district. It's a sub category.
Yeah.
So you get like 13 churches that are a part of a district, and then the district is a part of the synod. Yeah. So
13 churches are the circuit, and then that's a part of a district, and then in any given state, depending on the population of the churches within the state, you could have subdivisions in a state. Like in Iowa, there was Iowa East and Iowa West district.
And I believe Illinois has Northern Illinois and Central Illinois.
Okay.
So I think we've got two, because then the southern part of the state, I think, is in the St. Louis part, Missouri district. So,
okay.
Yeah, I think. I don't.
They cut them off and let them be hillbillies.
Right.
Yeah, down south.
They do.
Yeah. All right. Well.
Yeah. So I got
not
that
to be
going.
confused with not to be confused with the Wisconsin Synod.
Right.
Or no, the Wisconsin.
And there's a ton of Lutherans up in there.
Oh yeah, Wisconsin,
Minnesota, Wisconsin. They got a ton of them.
A ton. Because that's where the Germans, when they came over on the boat, they went up into Minnesota, and then Wisconsin, and
yeah, sure,
yeah,
yeah. And then I'm working for, our ward here.
Oh yeah, you're. We haven't even talked about your political motions and moves, and so you're working with the ward, and a lot of people. Yeah. Wouldn't even know what a ward is.
No.
But basically, Chicago's so big. Chicago could become its own state.
It could.
And not to start, but so then you're doing that, and you're on the school board.
And then I'm on the school board, yeah.
Yeah.
So
there was a vacancy, and you filled that.
Yeah, and I just got reelected last week, so.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
You got all the votes.
Got all the votes.
Oh man. So you were actually on a ballot?
I was.
On a public ballot?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
You're an elected official.
I'm an elected official.
Multiple times.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
So I haven't run for governor, so, I mean, like, you're still up in that category.
Well, I mean, yeah. Yeah, I didn't run for governor. Actually, and, yeah, hey, for everybody who's having a hard time with my ADHD right now, so I watched a movie yesterday from 1982, Paul Newman, called Verdict. And again, Goodwill find $2.99. It was in a wrapper. And I watched it. Oh. And I 1982, I was like a freshman in high school.
Yeah.
Many years ago. But again, I don't even know that they were trying to. But I like the cinematography or the video, the way it was shot, the storyline. Yeah, alcoholic lawyer, ambulance chaser, down on his luck, gets thrown a bone and goes in and tries a case. And spoiler alert, I won't tell you how it turns out. Yeah. But yeah, really good. And I think that's probably what movies teach me, is that they're in any given story. It definitely falls into that dualistic mindset where you have a villain, you've got the protagonist, and the stories that tell the struggle of humanity. Now, you take that, and I flip back. One of my favorite things I viewed this week was about turquoise. It's a Prime series, Turquoise Fever. And I got to watch these people mining for turquoise in Utah. Utah is pretty interesting.
There's a lot happening there.
There really is a lot happening.
Because then you get the Paleolithic stuff like dinosaurs. There's a lot of dinosaur stuff up there too.
What were you telling me about people riding dinosaurs or like training dinosaurs, or was that you?
When was that? I'm trying to... Let me try to search through.
You got an empty head space. Yeah, but
flip through the files.
Wow, there's a lot going on in regards to Utah. I mean, not from just minerals and gems and, gold fever and all this other stuff. But the ancients, and what's there? Oh, yeah. There's a lot going on.
There's a lot happening.
And then the Mormons settled there.
Right.
It just makes me wonder.
Right. Because then you get the, like the Trail of Tears is the, I think that it was the Trail of Tears that the Mormon Trail, like when they went from, and they got kicked out of Missouri, and then they were making their trek over to eventually where they did land in Utah. I don't know, or is the Trail of Tears the First Nations? I don't want to be wrong.
Well, I'm not going to fight you to be right, so I'm going to let you do that. Yeah, a lot of history things that are coming up that just bring us to a place of, I'm just amazed at.
So I was right. Yeah, the Trail of Tears was the Indians that were removed.
Yeah.
Natives.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. We were talking in the last episode, and I wondered how, like, Aztecs from South America were, like, if there was DNA in First Nations with that. And then just on another documentary this week, what I picked up was that actually Aztecs lived in North America first, then migrated to the South, and I'm going to spend some time and research that whole thing and find out more, because there was an exodus. And then there's another documentary on this canyon where these old buildings were built, and it looks to be a sacred place, sacred space. But this one lady headed up the investigation, and like these buildings are built on direct north, direct south lines and stuff like that. And according to like the sun and how the sun would come through, and it subdivided the calendar year and all of these different things. It was fascinating. And then I'm reminded of how much I don't know.
Yeah. You mentioned how much we don't know. If we do a podcast episode on how much we don't know, it's going to go a long time.
Yeah, but you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
But then there's how much you don't know. Like it's having this awareness that there's a lot that I don't know.
Yeah. And that's the reason why it's, when we talk about learning, it's like, it's nice to be able to learn something new every day. Yeah. Like, oh, hey, look at that. I learned something new. Hey, look at this. I learned something new. And, I think then it's, then it's not a surprise. It's more like I'm looking for things that I don't know. And how can we kind of revel in that to be able to say, hey, like, what don't you know, or what do you know that you think I don't know? Like, it's a good thing.
Well, and to that, this is a common cultural courtesy announcement.
Yeah.
Right here. But you can find out what you don't know that somebody else does know by asking questions. Like, discovery happens when you get interested in the other party, the other person.
Yeah.
And then you can, navigate that and inquisitive.
Yeah.
What leads to the change that happens within humanity that moves from the inquiry and the curiosity of childhood mindset into the set in your ways, I've figured out enough of life, and now this is the rigidness that I want it to be?
Yeah, and I think it comes from that, what is that statement they always say, you can't teach an old dog new tricks? And it's based on like experience of, I mean, so as you get older, you get stuck. Why does it have to be that way?
And what leads
people to get stuck?
Humanity into a stuckness.
Yeah. I mean, because I'm not going to lie about it, but, like, I do get kind of stuck sometimes. I mean, in my thinking, I'm like, I've spent some time trying to work through this, and I think that I have a pretty good so you get stuck in that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but, like, for the rest of my life, should there be, how do you keep your brain moldable? Like, even in that place where you're saying, as I get older, like, I don't want to get stuck there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. One of the things that I was sharing Sunday was Saturday was absolutely beautiful here in Chicago, like 80 degrees and, just absolutely beautiful. And I had to run a couple errands that took me into Northbrook. And but then there was all these people who were out enjoying the beautiful, and everybody was driving and all this stuff. And so then, like, there's this part, whether it's through the pandemic is one thing, and then change of season with being in the studio. And I brought it up before. I live a very secluded, isolated life. So then there's part of me that is like, man, I'd really like to be socialized. Like, I understand why dogs go on play dates with other dogs. Woof. But so the idea of socialization, and then the problem with that is then you have to deal with people.
Yep.
So
the good and the bad of that.
Right. And so then I'm out there, and I have to admit, I mean, there were people were generally in good spirits. I mean, a lot of waving strangers. I mean, like, it was weird. I mean, people, hey, how you doing? And stuff like that. And you're like, yeah, I'm doing great. We don't even know each other, and I'm not going to tell you how I'm really doing. I mean, like, and so, there ends up moving into this place where it's like, oh, yeah, I guess, wow, the life of the hermit, like, that glove fits, and I'm okay with it. And then it moves into Loss of Gypsy, and I used to have my little fur baby companion, kind of tagging along, and I'm
right.
Like, I was even putting it out there, toe in the water. We might be at a place where maybe it's time to consider a dog. And then we watched this thing on Netflix, cute little family movie about this dog, Ruby.
Yeah.
Who got rescued. It's based on a true life story. Got rescued from a shelter.
Uh-huh.
And was trained by this police officer to be able to go on a canine unit. Ended up in 2018 was awarded like the best canine search dog in the U.S.
Wow.
And ends up that finds this little boy on the side of a hill, but it was the boy of the lady that took care of the dog in the shelter.
Oh, man.
I mean, great. And it was a true story.
Wow.
And what was really cool is they didn't use the real Ruby, but the cast and the crew went to a shelter and got a shelter dog to start working through the training for it to be on this movie set.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, I told Amy, I'm like, I've been avoiding this movie, so if I start crying, just deal with me. And but we watched it. It was lovely. And but and then I was like,
and Amy didn't sleep.
No, she made it. We watched a couple. When we get into inspirational movies,
yeah,
she really enjoys those.
Okay. Yeah. And she'll be captivated enough to.
And I think we started watching the movie like at 5 p.m. So like
go.
it wasn't sleep
time.
time.
So it wasn't sleep time.
No.
Rom-coms, go ahead, fall asleep.
Yep. And so, but then what I also realize is I don't have to walk a dog.
Yeah.
You know, don't have to clean up poop.
Mm-hmm. Which is nice.
You know, and so like then there's this part of like, I have been living outside of myself through the radio. I listen, and you can probably get this on, you know, different radio but KXRT 93.1 in Chicago. I brought it up before, but KXRT is like, just talk about not knowing what you don't know. Like, not living in Chicago, I would have never known about this station. But I guess back in the 50 years ago, so 1972,
yeah,
3 hippies walk into this radio station and say, "Hey, what do you think about us playing some music at night, you know, during the wee morning hours and stuff?" And this guy, this radio station owner, said, "Yeah, sure, let's do that." So they pull out the record players and bring in their records, and they start playing this stuff. And now 50 years later, KXRT has been on the airwaves, and I mean, it is just all kinds of good. And they sponsor a lot of shows in town, and they do record. On Friday nights they have live concert recordings that they have privileges to be able to play on the radio. And last weekend, all day Saturday, it was Vinyl Saturday because it was Record Store Day.
Oh,
and so then what they did is they played the DJs played sides of records, and they're like, "Hey, we're bringing you the B side of the third record from this box set," you know, and then they play through the whole side, and you know, and commentate on that. And I bring up that whole deal, and so like I'm getting to know these DJs.
Yeah,
they make me laugh. I'm living vicariously through. Speaking of,
so you can pick it up on the internet.
All right, there you go.
Odyssey, AUDACY.com.
Yeah.
And they have all of the on-air personalities listed.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Sunday mornings when you drive into church, it's Beatles, Breakfast with the Beatles. And this lady who is really into music, and she hosts that show and stuff like that. And so it can be actual Beatles recordings. It can be people who have covered Beatles songs. It just brings in lots of different things with that.
I'll skip that breakfast.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But a group to check out is Camp. Camp has a brand new song out called I Believe, and it is just fantastic. Yeah. I think it's CAAMP.
It is.
We saw them at Hinterland last year.
Oh.
Yeah, so
they're from Athens, Ohio.
Yep. And it's not Mumford Sons kind of folk. And it's definitely not Judah and the Lion kind of folk. Which, if you're like, I don't even know what you're talking about, then the answer is listen to all 3, and you will get. Judah and the Lion definitely has banjos, but they're really beat and bass.
Right, they're
driven dance music folk. Mumford Sons, the godfather of folk revival, and to the point, you know, like, I get the part when you get as good as you are and you can command or demand any price for a ticket. But they were doing their tour across the U.S. the last time, and like a ticket price to get into this event was like $500 and some dollars, or $350.
Wow.
I mean, and
that's crazy.
You know, and then I asked the question, okay, there's people who will pay it to go, But are they really saying we would rather find a threshold of where we don't have to come out and do this?
Right.
You know?
I mean, because you definitely are pricing a whole segment of the population out of your live shows.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, and it was in some obscure village of Iowa that were, like, I think they came to Waverly, Iowa. And, you know, I was like, oh, man, I could see Mumford Sons. Nope.
Yeah, I was hearing about, you know, there are certain artists that they just release music and they don't really care about the touring. And it's saying, I mean, like Frank Ocean. Do you know Frank Ocean?
No.
I mean, he's definitely smooth. I mean, he's got some good. I mean, the guy is skilled, but he definitely doesn't make as much because he's like, I'm doing this more for like the love of music and putting it out there and people enjoy it, but he's less concerned with trying to be able to make the millions by touring and trying to do stadium shows and you know. So from what I hear, like Kendrick Lamar, who's more hip hop, rap, you know, like he hasn't put out things in a while, and he's, you know, pretty much has the same mentality. He's going to release an album after many years of being off, and he doesn't plan on necessarily trying to, you know, make things huge by going on tours. So he might do some here and there, but for the most part, he's not trying to do these multi-city touring, you know. And it's like some of the artists are going to be like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to say we're not shooting for like billionaires in this whole industry. We want to do this music and we want to put it out and we want people to enjoy it.
Yeah.
I mean, and is there anything wrong with that?
Oh, no. I think the purist would say that just for the sake of creating, you're writing songs. And Nathaniel Rateliff came out with an album through the pandemic, and
not a Night Sweats album either, right? Isn't it?
Yeah,
just him.
I'm not sure of, but he, man, there's a guy that was basically, as I understand the story, was basically a cover artist. Like he was doing shows local, and then all of a sudden, bam, he hit the market. But yeah, just to be able to put things down and to make music, I don't know. It's interesting. All of this is interesting.
Because I believe Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats will be here in May.
Well, they were here in the fall. Everybody's here,
right? I mean,
every
people come.
Lot. Chicago.
Oh no, June 18th.
Oh, okay.
They're here June 18th with a bunch of others. So Nathaniel Rateliff, Bastille, Walk the Moon, Cold War Kids, Milky Chance. So yeah. It's all the way over at that Hollywood amphitheater that's like an hour and a half.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I mean, they do. I mean, it's a $20 ticket.
Well, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
And they probably do a 45-minute set. Like all the different. They stagger them all the way up, and then the headliner gets a good hour and 15.
Right.
Yep.
That's it.
So what music are you listening to, listener? You can shoot us an email and let us know what you're thinking about that. What things do you find inspirational? And what things are allowing you? So we were having that talk about spinning plates, and me being all over the place and stuff. And did I tell you about that I'm gonna polish rocks?
You did.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so
I was amazed by how long the process was to be able to do that.
Oh, there's this dude on YouTube called Michigan Rocks, and every time he's in there, but he's like, this is a beginner's tutorial. I'm gonna help you understand what to do. And actually, the rock tumbler that I picked was the one that he used. So I thought, oh, I'm on a right streak here. He polished rocks for 17 weeks. And didn't even get them polished. Like I got so taken up with, and then he's like, well, here's how you can cut down your time and do it quicker. And I literally, this guy like bought like this crushed, apparently it was beautiful rocks, and bought medium and large, and I mean was like tumbling them down into these smooth stones and picking out all the stuff. And he's like, one of the things you can do is you could go to a lake, like Lake Michigan, or or wherever you're at, and pick up stones that have already been through the natural tumbling. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yes, that's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm going to do.
That cuts it down.
Yeah. But Amy asked me, she's like, what are you going to do with polished stones? And I'm like, well, I'm not really polishing them. They're polishing themselves. Yeah, it's this thing that's going on in the background.
Right.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, but it is. I mean, people will buy polished stones.
That's what my mom said yesterday. She's like, Steve, she was talking about a friend of hers that has a little bowl, and then when something comes to her mind that she wants to be mindful of, she takes one of her polished stones and puts it in there as a reminder of what that thing was that came to her mind, so she can think on it, process and work through, have conversation with her husband about it, and stuff like that. And so I could do a little bowl with and have reminder stones.
Right.
But yeah, so it's funny because go down to the beach and there's a lot of people picking stones. And the stones keep coming back, so I feel like it's
there's enough stones out there,
public domain.
Right. Yeah, it's always funny in the natural or the parks out there. They're like, you can't remove any piece like.
Well, and when you got like hundreds of thousands of people walking through, and all of a sudden you're left with nothing. Yeah.
Like somebody's picking up stones quite a bit. So like,
well, when this beach is only sand, I'll stop picking up stones.
Right.
Yeah, it seems to.
I don't think you're going to run out.
And I'm only at one beach. There's like 3 of them.
True.
I mean, it's interesting. The state stone from Michigan is the Petoskey Stone. And it's a lovely stone.
Yeah.
But I haven't found any Petoskey stones in Illinois.
Yeah.
Probably because it's more of a East Coast Lake Michigan stone than it is a West Coast. But so just like the aliens, and I keep saying, hey, if you want to have a conversation, get a hold of me. I'm available. Yeah. So I'm just like, all right, Lake Michigan, you could bring me a Petoskey stone. Just one on the West Coast.
Yeah. So you don't have to travel all the way over.
No.
It's in your backyard.
It is in my backyard.
Oh, man.
Well, hey, we've come through this week. Looking forward to you hearing our voices.
Right.
The goofiness of this episode. I'm not sure. What did we really hit on?
Yeah, we've hit on a lot. So I just need one quick question.
Yeah.
So what do you think about this Elon Musk buying Twitter? Is this going to be added to your list of things you don't want to discuss?
Okay, so Bezos...
44 billion.
Yeah, so he bought Twitter. And I did see in the social feeds, one person brought up a point and said, how come there wasn't that big, or how come there's not that big of an outcry when Bezos bought the Washington Post?
True.
And, you know,
It's a good question.
I'm the analog guy.
Mm-hmm.
We've already talked about my technical deficiencies. I mean, like I'm able to have a mind to be able to. I can wrap my head around stuff and can do the bare minimums of whatever I need to do.
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle choice. The reality is that I never got into Twitter. Ron had us go up to this thing, and then we had iPhones, and then social media, and I just never. Science Mike is a Twitter freak.
I think he's leaving though because of this.
See, now I have no idea.
Yeah.
And I saw on Facebook again, just in a feed last night, that Jason Isbell, who uses that format quite frequently, apparently he's saying.
Yeah.
So is this one of this thing? And now, I mean, now we have like the pictures of the Antichrist coming up with Trump's head on it, and that he's going to be allowed back on Twitter.
Yeah, and what I hear is that Trump says he's not coming back because he started his own social, which nobody's really joining.
Yeah.
I think it's something called Truth Social, or I don't even know.
Yeah.
He's trying to get that off the ground or something, so he's like, I'm not going to join. I mean, but I think eventually he's going to come back because... So Elon was talking about, can this be a true forum for almost like public forum? Like, is there ever going to be a spot where there's going to be freedom of speech that occurs? Now, this is the danger area for it because, and he's bringing this up even prior to his purchasing Twitter. I mean, this was even right before he even put out an offer to buy. I'm sure he had it in his head that he was going to offer to buy, but he was saying, can Twitter become a place where free speech occurs? And people were like, yeah, like it would be nice to have a public forum where that would occur, but when you're talking about free speech, and you're saying we're not going to put down hate speech and we're not going to put down like that, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
Which is what they found in social media up
Right.
until this point. It's like when you allow everybody to talk about anything, like hate speech is going to be a part of this, and you're just going to say, well, it's the forum. Let's let it roll. That's where, So some people are already worried about that aspect because if he's trying to be able to do it this way, then what could come up based on it? So,
man.
And yeah, I think he's already a CEO of 3 companies. I know Tesla, he's CEO, even though he's not on the board there anymore.
Yeah.
SpaceX,
Yeah.
isn't that Elon Musk's? And then he's got another one too. And now he's purchasing this. He's not saying he's going to take over like a CEO, but
Yeah.
But if you're trying to have your fingers in the midst of this whole thing as well, I mean, it could get really sticky. So there's lots of public discussion and discourse happening on Twitter about this. There's lots of, as they would, conservatives are rejoining Twitter because they're saying, oh, now this will be a free space again for us. And like, no one was kicking them off before.
Right.
Like if you were producing hate speech, yeah, you were kicked off.
Yeah.
Like you were warned and then kicked.
Yeah. To the curb.
Right. So, like, are you saying, like, I really am just fighting for hate speech? No, I mean, that's dumb. Like, if we're talking about free thought, like, let's put thoughts out there, but don't think that in a public forum that you're just floating a thought isn't going to also have pushback.
Yeah.
Like a true public forum is going to say, let's actually have a discussion about this in the public arena. But
see, and that's where, once again, I'm just an analog person. I remember like hiring people who were younger than me by 20, 25 years, and you know, they would be like, I really don't want to talk to you on the phone. I'd rather text.
Right.
You know, and I wouldn't consider myself an influencer in the shape of social media influencers at all. And so there's part of this that just doesn't even make sense to me. Now, this is me in my head. Here, I'll give you a close up of this face right here. This is me in my head just trying to be like, hey, I thought we were talking about curiosity, but I'm like, oh my word. I'm like, just the idea of this, and it pains me to think about putting out an idea and then defending and seeking to understand and all of this stuff in this whole I don't have time in my life for that kind of stuff.
Right.
Or I don't make time in my life. I
agree.
Physically, like this hurts.
Right.
Me even considering it, it just physically makes me hurt.
Right. And that's where, so for number one on this list, like I don't think Twitter was worth 44 billion.
How much is that dude worth?
Well, I think that
before he spent the 44 billion.
Well, I think that he's on track to become one of the first trillionaires, you know, in our existence. So I don't think he's there. I mean, he's not a trillionaire, but I mean, with him getting himself into these multiple industries now and multiple CEO positions, and chances are multiple stock places, you know, where he owns stock from these companies. Like he's getting a huge amount of return. I mean, he in the pandemic, he just like Bezos became, you know, even richer. And but I think, I would probably say, if I was looking at, he probably has, I would say 300 billion at least, but that's
So is a trillion 1,000 billions?
Yeah.
And a billion is 1,000 millions?
Yeah,
wow.
So it says his net worth is 264.6 billion.
Wow.
And I think he is the richest man on the planet. So, and I mean, you can't always, these aren't always even quite as accurate, but I mean, that's
still a lot of money.
That's significant. I mean, when you're saying I can pay 44 billion and still has what, 220
couldn't
left
he
over?
Eradicate hunger?
Yeah, you would definitely. I mean, his net worth, you could destroy world hunger.
Yeah.
As long as you can get past the bureaucracy of, you know, world governments, but
wow.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, that's probably a bigger topic than, but I throw it out there because it also is something I'm like, to me, this is all like it gets into a crazy era of wealth, and what are you going to do? I mean,
I was just hoping my one pot stock would go like to $1.10. Hashtag not an investor, advisor.
Right.
Not a financial advisor. Hashtag.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are like, I really want to know. What is that? No, you don't.
No.
You don't want to know.
We're not going to say it. Could be insider trading.
Me and the 72,000 people that were trading that the other day.
Right.
Whatever.
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
So many things that we don't know.
So, to answer your question,
Yeah.
I really like sitting with my top 5.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad we talked about that.
So you don't want to add that one to your number 6? Okay.
No.
So you don't mind talking about it?
We did. We have. I mean, it's already...
We covered it sufficiently.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, go old school Warren Buffett on this shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, hey, how do you feel about Elon Musk? His billions moving to trillions.
Mm.
Yeah. But again, I mean, it just becomes divisive. And when, as people are, I mean, the rich are getting richer. We need a true Robin Hood.
Mm.
To quote the song from Footloose, I need a hero. We need a Robin Hood.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's crazy Elon Musk is only 50. So at 50 years old, you're $264 billion.
He has been known to smoke the weed.
Oh, is he? I didn't even know.
Wasn't it Elon Musk that was?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. I think
he probably owns.
Weren't we just quoting this in our Fringe episode where wasn't it Elon Musk that thought that the pyramids were built by aliens?
He
and then Egypt came back and said, hey, why don't you come and visit and we'll show you.
That's right. We did.
Yeah,
we did bring it up.
Elon has tendencies to just be out there.
Right.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, and he has the followership to be able to float things like that without and to have it gain traction.
Yeah.
Like we throw out something like crazy and it's like, no, we'll dismiss you.
I think there was one time that I we were at a family holiday and whatever, and I said something about I mean, there's things on my list of what not to do, and starting heroin is definitely one of that. And my nephew Connor, he just looks at me and then he looks away. I'm like, that doesn't even get a rise out of you, Connor. He's like, no, I literally expect you to say stuff like that.
Cool.
Yeah. Heroin was a bad deal in rock and roll.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ray Charles, heroin addict.
Mm-hmm.
But he got clean. Yeah.
Wow. And that's good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the opioid epidemic is linked to heroin.
Yep.
It's what they based building OxyContin out of. And then when people got addicted and couldn't get the pills anymore, then they turned to heroin. So heroin death on the rise. Yeah.
Wow.
Rock and roll.
I mean, I guess that's why they had sex, drugs in rock and roll era, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but so many cut short because of it too.
Yeah.
Like no longer able to put out
I know.
any more beauty because addiction.
R.I.P. Amy Winehouse.
Mm. Yeah. She would, I mean, her voice was, yeah. It was good. Yeah. But there's a whole, isn't there a group of people who all died at 29? I think she was one.
Was it 29 or the 27 club?
Or 27. Maybe it was, I think you're right. 27.
Buddy Holly, Jimi Hendrix.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like if you can make it past 27.
Yeah, in rock and roll. Yeah, Kurt Cobain. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're wrapping this up. It's been lovely.
Right. We're gonna put it in with a little bow on top for you guys to unwrap.
Episode 7.
Episode 7.
Season 5.
And it's come to a close. Peace.
We're going to see you in just a little bit.
Right.
It's going to be a longer bit since you're seeing this on Sunday.
Right.
But it might be a longer bit. So. You would think that Phil just smoked some weed because he's sitting over there giggling.
Right.
But he
but I did not.
Nope, no brownies, no gummy bears.
Nope.
All right, peace out, everybody.